Okay.
I'm only here for the party. Trust me, we're just getting started. The sound, the vibe. I feel so alive. You're only here for the party.
And first session of today is driving growth by embracing messy marketing. We are joined by Catherine Flynn, Head of Agency Development and Marketer Education APAC from LinkedIn. Welcome, Catherine. And then our very own Myles Klynhout, who is the Customer Success Lead here at Supermetrics APAC. And this session will be a fireside chat that dives into a third-party research that we conducted, and it covers the challenges and opportunities marketers are facing in the world of messy marketing. So let's go.
Byron and Nora, thank you so much for throwing it over to us. And it's a pleasure to see everyone out there today, as I can see the room filling up quite quickly. Catherine, we're usually based in Singapore together, just down the road from each other. But where does this find you today?
Morning, Myles. Morning, everyone. So I'm wishing you good morning from Mumbai. I've been in India all week visiting what is one of the most important markets for LinkedIn and seeing a lot of our agency partners and customers in the market this week. So it's great to be here, great to be joining you earlier in the morning than it is in Singapore.
Hey, most definitely. And thanks for making the time for us today. Real excited to have you on because essentially we've got about 25 minutes together today. And as you're aware, Supermetrics recently conducted a bit of a study in cooperation with Newton X, where we surveyed marketeers in Singapore and Australia to explore some of the challenges and opportunities that we see for the coming year. Look, there were three key themes that emerged from this, as you're aware. Data sprawl and data guilt, which we're going to dive into. Marketers needing to do more with less is the sensation out there. And measurement in a cookieless world, which has been on top of everyone's mind over the last, multiple years, but especially last 6 months. Catherine, your team at LinkedIn produce a number of valuable publications each year. One of those is the B2B marketing benchmark report as well. So I guess if it sounds okay with you, if we can spend the next 25 minutes comparing some of the numbers we might have and trying to add a bit of flavor to those statistics.
That sounds fabulous. We discovered, I think, in the prep for this session that our collective reports had covered the same markets in APAC, so it felt like a good opportunity to compare notes and also compare our own experience and our own customers' experience.
Hey, I think so. Not only that, Catherine, we actually worked out that our first gigs back in the day in the world of marketing were actually working for Vodafone. And we were talking about a time where there was maybe a little bit less data that we had access to back then.
Yeah, I don't think I had any data back then. We were bringing mobile phones into the world, which we're going to start off letting everybody know just how old we were, or that they were employing children in marketing back in Ireland and Australia back in those days.
That must have been it. I'll take the latter. But the first one to point I'm going to put on screen at the moment is, look, marketers are dealing with a lot more data. And what do we mean by this? Well, marketers are dealing with a lot more data today than in 2021. At Supermetrics, we have around 17,000 customers globally. And diving into the amount of data moving through, here's what the numbers show. Marketing teams are requesting more data. Overall, we're seeing analysts running 37% more queries compared to 2021. A query just being requesting data from, say, LinkedIn's API and moving it to your Google Sheet or data warehouse. And marketing teams are requesting greater granularity of data. So we're seeing that 52% more rows of data are being returned into a spreadsheet or into a data warehouse. One quote I'm going to pull from somebody I was speaking to, a customer the other day, is that there's more of it than ever before, and it's overwhelming. Yet it's becoming increasingly harder for me to keep track of what data we have and how to use it, and it's driving a sense of guilt.
Yeah.
So, look, Catherine, how does this resonate with your own experience? And I guess forever the optimist, I think you believe there's an opportunity here to drive growth by embracing messy marketing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thank you. First of all, I'm no fan of guilt. I'm a mother of a young child, so I don't believe in guilt because I think it holds us back. And I would apply the same thing to marketers feeling guilt. But it's completely understandable because we've come from a world where certainly when I started marketing over 20 years ago, we had little or no data, certainly no data that we owned ourselves. We relied on our media partners, we relied on third-party data and research that sort of was vague in its nature, in helping us really figure out if what we were doing was working. So like, I am an optimist. So when you talk about your research and findings that marketers are accessing more data than ever before, that's telling me that marketers are taking ownership, are not afraid to sort of like get their hands dirty, which I would say a few years ago, when we did start to get a lot more data into the marketing function, it was still a tendency of a lot of marketers, I will include myself in this, to leave that to the analytics people. And I think one of the things I love about Supermetrics' mission is to make data marketing superpowers. So it's like, give the power to the marketers, and that's why we have built such a great partnership between our organizations. So for me, I think the opportunity is for marketers to still do what we do best, and that is the same now, or should be the same now as it was 20 years ago, 40 years ago, which is to bring clarity to messy situations or chaotic situations, and to keep putting the customer at the heart, because we are usually, or we should be, the people in the organization who are closest to the market, closest to the customer. So we shouldn't forget that in our efforts to become data savvy and comfortable with data, and not feeling too guilty about maybe our ability to harness all that data. So my own experience, I've been less successful as a marketer when I have been, I've lost sight of the business outcomes, and I have become, too embedded in the marketing language and the marketing metrics, particularly when digital first kind of burst into our lives. We were suddenly, we were getting data from everywhere. We were getting signal from all over the place, but it was easy to become overwhelmed. And I think I've been most successful as a marketer when, I think back to my years as a marketer at Meta. I was at Meta for 11 years, and I was a B2B marketer there for almost 9 of those years. When I was aligned to the business, when I was close to product, to finance, to sales, and to research, and when I was speaking the language of business outcomes, not marketing metrics, that was where I had the most success, and that was where my team had the most success. So, I would always encourage using business language, not marketing jargon. So, we've got a whole report at LinkedIn from our B2B Institute that's called Marketing to the CFO, and it's full of really helpful language to use. Instead of say this, instead of saying, we want to run 3 ad campaigns, say our strategic program has 3 phases, or instead of saying, salience, say stable market share, because that's what business owners care about. Just a couple of examples. So the good news is in our B2B marketing benchmark that you referenced, marketers and marketing leaders in particularly those key APAC markets that we talked about are feeling good about their ability to drive revenue, and they're feeling their roles have grown in importance. Nearly 70% of CMOs feel that. And even though most of them are expecting more change, more reorgs, more data, more messiness, I think we're seeing an increased confidence, which makes me pretty optimistic.
Thanks. And I like the sound of that. I think we can work with that optimism as we go through a couple of other topics today where, as we said, marketers are openly talking about feeling guilt with the amount of data that they're not touching and feel they should be touching. And I think you've summed up what it looks like working with less data, working with more data, and what it means to actually be interpreting that as well.
Yes. Yeah.
A quick shout out to everyone who is out there as well. In terms of clarity, if you have any questions, you are welcome to use our Q&A feature over on the right of the screen, and we'll be picking up questions throughout today's session as well. But hey, let's move on to the next topic that we discovered in our research as well. So we spoke about there being a lot of data out there, and marketers therefore are being asked to do less, or I should say challenges. They're actually being asked to do
More.
a lot more with less.
More with less,
So
yeah.
look, marketers are caught in a tough spot is the feeling we have, and they need to prove their worth they need to stretch limited budgets is one thing we're hearing, and juggle quick wins with long-term brand building. I mean, look, put simply, we feel like they're being asked to do more with less, as you say, Catherine. So look, 53% of marketers say pressure to cut costs while maintaining results is one of the biggest factors they have in terms of causing stress in their role today. But Catherine, what positive stories are you seeing where marketers are doing more with less successfully?
Yeah, so the more with less is real, or the expectation from businesses. I know we have mostly marketers, I'm guessing, attending today, but also people from across the ecosystem. I work with agencies every day, and the smart marketers are using agencies and partners to help. In a world where they are being put under pressure, their teams may be smaller, their budgets are definitely smaller from everything that we are hearing. But I would just again encourage, as a marketer who has been through this over the last 5+ years, where we used to be in a world where every year the budget would get a little bit bigger or a lot bigger, or you get some more headcount for your team. There was always just this expectation that if the business was growing, marketing would get to grow. But back to the last topic we talked about, if we want that, if that's something we believe is good for the business, we need to be able to advocate for that in much stronger ways than maybe marketing has ever done before. So we've talked about that a little bit, but I think it's just this continuous top of mind of how you build a business case for marketing and how you speak the language of the business. So I think to that end, my call to action to marketers is not to agree to do more with less, but it's in a world of leaner resources, smaller budgets. It's to think about doing less actually, but maybe achieving more. So, focus, being the voice within the business and the voice to your teams that says, actually, let's do fewer things, but let's invest more in them. Let's do them better. Let's lean on our partners to sort of measure them even better than we did before. So not to make that mean, more stressed marketers, more burnt out marketers, spreading ourselves too thinly. I think we can have actually even greater impact in this environment. And that's certainly what I have, chosen to do and chosen to believe over the last number of years. In our, one area that we have seen in our research, over 2,000 marketers that we surveyed, they're using technology, they're leaning into Gen AI and other tools. That probably a year or two ago was causing some of this guilt. There's so much going on, I'm not really sure what to lean into. But now it looks like marketers are really harnessing, Gen AI, just as one example, but 2 and 3 are using it. Now, caution is that, we think that maybe there's still a big opportunity to really use these tools for marketing activities and marketing effectiveness. So there's still an opportunity there to communicate technology guidance and use cases properly in organizations to help supercharge marketing in this case. We also have good news on the creative front, which, there's often a tendency to ditch the brand budget first when there's a crunch on resources. But actually, we're seeing in our research, and I see it every day, particularly in how B2B marketing is changing, which we see firsthand at LinkedIn. 9 out of 10 CMOs in our research are advocating for bolder campaigns, more creative campaigns. Nearly 70% are increasing their brand building budgets, and 7 out of 10 say they've developed standout creative in the last year. So, this is what I mean by doing fewer things, doing them bigger, doing them better. And I know we're going to get on and talk about measurement, but there's really an opportunity to focus in on key priorities, connect those back to the business, and still be able to be bold as marketers in this increasingly complex environment that we're in.
Great. And Catherine, talking about linking them back to the business there, I do have a question here that over in the chat that I'm going to pull up, and that is, what is the best approach, in your opinion, to make the relevance of the heaps of data that we have access to nowadays permeate through all stakeholders and to get stakeholders' attention in an impactful name? You're talking about marketing to the CFO and that change in language. I'm just wondering, are there any other points that you've got there that are top of mind?
Yeah, I think it's storytelling is what marketing, marketing should be the best function in the business at this. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, there's this old phrase that we've probably all heard, maybe get used again today, is, you know, drowning in data but searching for meaning. And, you know, marketing should be the one to synthesize that, you know, convey that meaning to the rest of the business. So I would be, you know, I would not be in a rush to show the rest of the business and all your stakeholders all your data. It's more a case of saying, like, a bit like we're doing today, you know, we both have extensive research reports. We could have thrown that up on the screen and presented slides with 50 bullet points per slide for 20 minutes for the, you know, the poor attendees. But, you know, we've picked out a few key data points, and we're making, you know, we're making broader points that is backed by data. And I would say, you know, that's how to leverage everything you have at your disposal as a marketer, as a marketing team, and bring that back to the business selectively in a way that tells the story that you want to tell for marketing. I don't mean making stuff up. I don't mean telling, you know, fabricating stories. But if marketing wants to tell a story of a certain area of investment is going to achieve a certain business outcome, then make that your focus and put the customer at the center. You know, I think particularly in the world of B2B, marketing can end up a bit distanced from the customer because sales own that relationship or something like that. But really fight for your proximity to the customer, and really tell that story would be my advice.
No, thanks. And there was a question in the chat here asking about Supermetrics utilizing AI to create, you know, efficiency for marketers. Look, just to touch on that quickly, I think we will go deeper into different product aspects, but yes, there are ways within Supermetrics where you can be using a language model to actually query data the way you would like, or ask to build, for example, you could ask within Supermetrics, you could actually ask to build a query, or you could ask essentially a way that you'd like to model the data and have that done for you. So there are different tools out there, uses like that. I wouldn't be remiss without coming into a conversation like today, without taking our reports, putting them through an AI model and interrogating that data and seeing what points we could touch on.
Yeah.
So I think these are the ways you can be saving time as a marketer.
Yeah, super smart. I mean, that's back to the, you know, another, you know, area that we really found coming through strongly in the research is, like, the human skills of marketers are more important than ever, as a layer on everything that technology enables us to do. There's a lot of talk about this in the industry at the moment, but, you know, you know, there are some of the greatest marketers out there are number crunchers, you know, are people who are great with data. But, you know, we need people to be curious, resourceful, collaborative, all of those things, to really make sense of what we're doing and chart the path for the future.
Agreed. And with that, how about we move on to the next topic that came up out of our reports. We've been talking about measurement and cookieless for a long time. And one question that we asked was, what types of data does your organization currently prioritize for marketing? An overwhelming 87% of respondents selected first-party data. Look, first-party data is a natural next step in a cookieless world. First-party data may well be a brand's most valuable asset moving forward. And I think that's one thing we can agree on. But instead of holding on to the past, I think marketers should, in my opinion, rip off the bandage and start investing in first-party data in a cookie-free tracking solution. I'd love to get your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, well, we know now we're in a less cookies, not cookie-less world, I think is the latest description I've heard. The changes in the, you know, the unpredictable nature of the landscape. Are cookies going away? Are they not? I think we have used that as marketers, or as a marketing industry, to define what we're going to do next when it comes to measurement. And I think that's been the wrong, you know, we've been sort of led by a stick for a while. And, you know, now is the opportunity to, you know, really see great measurement as just a carrot for better marketing. And, you know, owning your data, like, that's amazing to hear. 87% is an amazing number that, you know, of marketers and organizations that are prioritizing first party data, because 5 years ago, you know, many marketers didn't know what that was. You know, okay, maybe 10 years ago, maybe I'm being unfair to a lot of marketers, but this picture would have looked quite different. So I think what the the drive to, the changes in privacy, the drive around cookies going away has done is get marketers to own that data, own their data, own their plan, their data strategy. But, let's not have the changes or the uncertainty delay us continuing down the path of just, it's not about aiming for the perfect data set. I think, use the signals that you have. This is a lot of first party data, and, working with partners like Supermetrics, platforms like LinkedIn, and all of the other platforms out there. Like, I'm a huge advocate for the agency in, ecosystem, as, if you can take your first party data to your agency or your partners and connect it with the vast ecosystem of data and insight that they have invested in building. I think that's where the magic is for marketers. So we also hear in our research and see from talking to marketers and our agencies that, marketers are hyper focused on first party data, but make it usable. Don't keep it in silos, or, don't hoard it inside your organization. Make sure it can work for you. So, the optimism is coming through again in our reports. You've highlighted here 7 in 10 marketers now think they have the right tech in place. I mean, that's amazing to hear. And back to our earlier points about, telling the story internally, much higher confidence in being able to demonstrate impact to the C-suite, because that's where marketing really gets the seat at the table. That's where we, move from being a cost center to an investment center, when we can tell this story. So the other thing we've seen, and this is on LinkedIn more broadly, when we look at, the content that we all bring to the platform and the skills we all share about. In the last year, data analysis was the #1 skill added to LinkedIn profiles. So I think the year before it was AI or Gen AI, and but data analysis is the #1 digital skill, that's been added to LinkedIn profiles. So that's really, marketers need to continue to invest in that, and continue to invest in our data skills. That work is probably never done. So, getting comfortable with that continued learning is really, really important.
No, amazing. Catherine, look, thank you so much for your time and kicking
you,
off our
Myles.
Super Summit in APAC here. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and I'm wishing you all the best for your time in Mumbai.
Thanks for having me. Good luck with the rest of the event.
Thank you. Back to Nora and Byron in the studio. Thank you so much.
Question that we just had with Catherine and Myles, 2 of the best.
Yes.
As well, 2 of the best. Reminded me of a panel that we did when we were in Sydney at Mumbrella 360.
Another good event, by the way.
Yeah, it was a great event.
Yeah.
And one of the panelists actually said, marketing with too much data and no prioritization is like driving a car full of screaming kids, which I think is hilarious. And it could not be more true.
An absolute nightmare.
An absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. I think what we'll do is, because of the research that Myles spoke about, the Supermetrics research, let's do some fun facts. You ready for this?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so the question is, got to bring your A game. What are the top 2 KPIs that marketers indicated they'll be focused on in 2025 in APAC?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
All right. And not an easy one to answer, actually.
Why is that?
Because if I think about it, so on a daily basis, we interact with multiple marketers or all over APAC. Depending on the country or industry, the KPIs they prioritize might actually be very different.
Yeah.
So spill the tea.
Spill the tea.
What are the top 2?
You're absolutely on point. Everyone has unique needs, but I think when they distilled the research down to the top 10. Okay. #1, drum roll. #1, 63% of marketers said they want to focus on ROI, or return on investment.
Okay.
In 25. Makes sense.
Makes sense.
I think we hear that all the time.
Yeah.
That is talking about the great work that you're doing this year and measuring ROI to talk about increased budgets, or as Catherine said, the initiatives you want to put in place for like going into 2025.
Yeah.
The second one is conversion rates. So I feel like it's in the same area, but the second one, 46% of people say conversion rates were going to be key to measuring success. I think it's in the same sort of areas of ROI. It's just maybe just a slightly different take. But I believe what we're seeing across the industry, especially in these uncertain economic times, is the region becoming more performance media focused. Like so I spend $1, I want X dollars back, or I want an outcome.
For sure.
I found it interesting that I think for the first time that I've seen in many years that brand awareness or brand engagement is actually not in the top 1 or 2. It was actually in our research, it was number 6 out of 10. So it's dropping in importance, which I think is quite interesting.
That is, I didn't expect it to be so low on the list.
No, I didn't think so either.
But yeah, interesting insights, and let's keep an eye on how these KPIs evolve in the coming years.
Yeah,